Hi, everyone. I don't even know where to start. Writing this feels surreal, but I need to get it off my chest. Maybe someone out there can relate or give me advice. So here it goes. My name is Mike, and I'm 42 years old. My now ex-wife, Jessica, is 37. We were together for 16 years, married for 15 of those. We've got 3 kids, Emma, 12, Noah, 9, and little Mia, 5. From the outside looking in, our life probably seemed stable, even ideal to some. We had a nice house, still paying the mortgage, of course, 2 cars, and I'd finally fulfilled my childhood dream of owning a motorcycle. Well, 2, actually. It wasn't always like this, though. Jess and I started with practically nothing. Back then, we were just 2 broke kids renting a tiny studio apartment. I worked as a junior IT tech, and Jessica bounced between jobs. She was mostly a cashier, but when Emma was born, she became a stay-at-home mom. That arrangement stuck for the better part of a decade. I worked my ass off for this family. I don't say that to toot my own horn. It's just the truth. There were stretches where I worked 20-hour days or went months without a single day off. We were barely scraping by at first, counting every penny to make rent. I still remember having to decide between groceries and gas money some weeks, but I never complained. Jess and I were a team, or so I thought. Fast forward a few years, and things got better. I worked my way up the ladder in IT. Not anything glamorous, but it paid well enough to let us breathe. We bought a house in the suburbs, got a second car, and life became less of a grind. Jessica stayed home with the kids, which I was totally fine with. She'd gone back to work briefly between pregnancies, but with 3 kids, childcare costs would have eaten up her entire paycheck anyway. It made more sense for her to stay home while I kept us afloat financially. For years, I didn't ask much of Jess beyond taking care of the house and the kids. I figured I was doing my part by bringing in the money, and she was doing hers by holding down the fort at home. Romance wasn't exactly a priority for either of us by then. Our dates were usually walks in the park with a stroller. We were young and in love. Back then, we didn't need fancy dinners or exotic vacations. Just being together was enough. When we found out Jess was pregnant with Mia, our third, I decided to treat myself for once. I'd always dreamed of riding a motorcycle, so I signed up for lessons. Jess was super supportive, which only made me love her more. She even joked about joining me on rides someday. A year later, I bought my first bike and convinced her to take lessons too. I pictured us riding side by side, sharing the open road. But reality didn't work out that way. Between the kids and my job, it was hard to find time for both of us to ride together. Jess ended up taking the bike out more than I did, while I stayed home with the kids. At first, I didn't mind. I figured she deserved a break after spending years at home. She started joining these group rides organized by local motorcycle enthusiasts. She seemed happier than she'd been in a long time, so I encouraged it. I even joked about how she'd become the cool biker mom of the neighborhood. She'd come home from rides buzzing with energy, telling me all about the people she'd met and the places they'd gone. Looking back, maybe I should have seen the red flags sooner. By spring of last year, things started to shift. At the time, I didn't realize it was the beginning of the end, but in hindsight, the signs were all there. Jessica got a job at an auto repair shop run by one of the guys from her motorcycle group. His name was Brandon, mid-40s, divorced, successful enough to own the shop. She said he was looking for someone to help with reception and scheduling, and since she already knew a bit about bikes from her riding experience, it seemed like a good fit. I didn't question it. In fact, I was happy for her. Jess had spent years cooped up at home, and I thought going back to work would give her a sense of independence. She seemed excited, and I wanted to support her. What I didn't realize was that Brandon wasn't just her boss. He was also one of the guys she'd been riding with. She conveniently left that detail out when she first told me about the job. At first, everything seemed normal. Jess would head to work in the mornings and come back in the evenings, tired but in a good mood. She was more engaged with the kids, and it felt like her energy had shifted in a positive way. I thought, maybe this is exactly what she needed. But as the months went on, little things started to nag at me. She started spending more and more time away from home. On top of her job, she was still going on group rides almost every weekend. I'd be left with the kids, which I didn't mind. I love my kids, but it felt like she was slowly detaching from the family. Sometimes she'd come home late from a ride, claiming they'd stopped for dinner or gotten lost. Other times, she'd cancel plans with me and the kids at the last minute because something came up at work or with her riding group. The tipping point came in September when I had to leave town for work. My company landed a big contract, and I was put in charge of the project. It meant 2 months away from home, but it was a career opportunity one couldn't pass up. Jess was supportive at first, telling me not to worry about her or the kids. She said they'd be fine, and I believed her. While I was gone, I made a point to call home every night. The kids would tell me about their day, and Jess would give me quick updates about the house, work, and whatever else was going on. But over time, her tone became off. She was distracted during our calls, like she couldn't wait to hang up. I chalked it up to stress. Handling the kids and the house on her own couldn't have been easy. About a month into my trip, I started hearing things from mutual friends. One of the guys in her riding group, Tom, reached out to me out of the blue. He said something like, "Hey, man, just checking in. How's everything going?" It seemed innocent enough, but the way he hesitated when I asked if everything was okay made my stomach turn. I didn't press him on it, though. I figured if there was something I needed to know, Jess would tell me. When I finally came home in late October, everything felt wrong. Jess was distant, cold even. The kids were thrilled to see me, but Jess barely acknowledged my return. She said she was exhausted and needed time to decompress, which I found odd since I was the one who'd been away working my ass off. Then, one night, I came home from a late shift to find her packing a suitcase. I froze. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "I'm leaving," she said, not even looking up. "I need space, Mike. I've been doing this by myself for too long. It's your turn to take care of the kids." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I tried to reason with her, but she wouldn't budge. She gave me some bullshit excuse about needing to find herself and how she felt trapped in the marriage. I begged her to stay, for the kids if not for me, but she was already gone emotionally. The next morning, she was gone physically too. The first few days after Jess left were a blur. I was in full survival mode, trying to keep things normal for the kids while my world was crumbling around me. I told them that Mom needed some time to herself and that it had nothing to do with them. Emma cried. Noah got angry, and little Mia just kept asking when Mommy would come back. I didn't have the heart to tell them I didn't know the answer. At that point, I was clinging to the hope that Jess was just going through some kind of midlife crisis. I convinced myself she'd eventually come back. But then I found the footage. Our car has a dash cam, something I installed years ago for insurance purposes. I never gave it much thought, but one evening while cleaning out the garage, I realized Jess had taken the car the day before she left. I pulled up the footage, mostly out of curiosity. What I saw made my blood run cold. There she was, my wife of 15 years, sitting in the car with Brandon. The same Brandon who hired her at the auto shop, the same Brandon from her motorcycle group. They weren't just talking. They were kissing. Not a quick peck, but the kind of kiss that makes your stomach churn when you realize it's not meant for you. I couldn't believe it. My hands were shaking as I rewound the footage to make sure I wasn't imagining things. But there it was, clear as day. My wife, the mother of my kids, making out with another man in our family car. For a while, I just sat there, staring at the screen. I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. All those late nights, the distant phone calls, the excuses about needing space. It all made sense now. She wasn't finding herself. She was with him. That night, I confronted her. I called her over and over until she finally picked up. "Mike, what do you want?" she asked, her tone dripping with irritation. "I want to know why you're cheating on me with Brandon," I said, cutting straight to the point. There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. Then she laughed, a short, cold laugh that made my skin crawl. "Seriously? Are you spying on me now?" she snapped. "I didn't need to. You left the damn dashcam running." "I saw everything," I said, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and heartbreak. Her tone shifted from defensive to dismissive. "Fine. You want the truth?" "Yes, I'm with Brandon. He actually appreciates me, unlike you. Do you have any idea how lonely I've been all these years? While you were working late and playing the perfect provider, I was here, dealing with everything on my own. That hit me like a freight train. I'd worked so hard to provide for her and the kids, sacrificing my time, my energy, and sometimes even my health. And now she was using that against me, twisting my efforts into evidence that I'd somehow failed her. I was doing it for us, I said, my voice breaking. For you. For the kids. Everything I've done has been for this family. Well, maybe I didn't ask for that, she shot back. Maybe I just wanted a husband who was actually present. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there, stunned, staring at the phone in my hand. It was like I didn't even know her anymore. The woman I'd loved, the woman I'd built a life with, was gone, replaced by someone who clearly didn't give a damn about me or the sacrifices I'd made. For the next 2 weeks, I was a mess. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and could barely function at work. Every time I looked at my kids, I felt this crushing guilt. How was I supposed to explain to them that their mom had chosen another man over her own family? Those 2 weeks after our phone call felt like an eternity. I was a walking zombie, going through the motions of work, cooking meals for the kids, and trying to hold it together for their sake. But inside, I was falling apart. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jessica and Brandon in the car. Every time I opened them, I saw the mess she'd left behind, her empty side of the closet, the gap on the bathroom counter where her things used to be. One night, as I was putting the kids to bed, Emma asked, "Is Mom coming back?" I froze. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't lie to her, but I also didn't want to crush her spirit. "I don't know, sweetheart," I finally said, my voice cracking. "But no matter what, I'm here for you. Always." She nodded and gave me a small smile, but I could see the worry in her eyes. It broke me. A few days later, Jessica showed up unannounced. She'd been gone for nearly 3 weeks by then, and this was the first time she'd set foot in the house since leaving. She didn't even bother knocking, just walked in like she still lived there. I was in the kitchen, making dinner, and the kids were in the living room watching TV. "Oh, so you're alive," I said bitterly when I saw her. "Nice to see you too, Mike," she replied, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I came to get a few more things." Without waiting for my permission, she marched past me and started rummaging through the bedroom. I followed her, my heart pounding in my chest. "You can't just walk in here like nothing happened, Jess." She sighed and turned to face me, arms crossed. "I'm still their mother, Mike. I have every right to be here." "Don't play the mother card now," I snapped. "You abandoned them. You abandoned us." Her eyes narrowed. "I didn't abandon anyone. I needed space, Mike. You think it's easy being stuck here, day in and day out, with no support?" "No support? Are you kidding me?" I said, my voice rising. "I've worked myself into the ground for this family. Everything we have is because I busted my ass for you and the kids." "Oh, here we go again," she said, rolling her eyes. "Poor Mike the martyr. Do you even hear yourself? You think money fixes everything? You think working long hours makes you a good husband? Newsflash, it doesn't. I needed more than a paycheck, Mike. I needed a partner." Her words felt like a slap in the face. I couldn't believe the nerve she had, standing there and blaming me for her choices. "So your solution was to run off and screw Brandon?" I shot back. "Great example you're setting for the kids." Her face turned red, and for a moment, I thought she might slap me. But instead, she just shook her head and said, "You'll never understand, Mike. You're too busy playing the victim to see the bigger picture." "The bigger picture?" I said, laughing bitterly. "What's the bigger picture, Jess? That you're selfish? That you threw away 16 years for some guy who doesn't even care about you?" Her jaw tightened, but she didn't say anything. She just grabbed her bag and stormed out of the house without another word. That night, I sat in the dark after the kids went to bed, replaying the conversation in my head. I kept asking myself the same questions. What did I do wrong? Could I have prevented this? Was this really my fault? A part of me wanted to believe her, to believe that I'd failed her as a husband and that this was all some horrible misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew better. This wasn't about me working too much or not being present enough. This was about her selfishness, plain and simple. She'd made her choice, and now I had to make mine. The next morning, I called my lawyer. I wasn't going to wait around for Jess to decide what she wanted. If she wanted out, fine. But I wasn't going to let her come back and disrupt our lives whenever it suited her. I started the process of filing for divorce, and I made it clear to my lawyer that I wanted full custody of the kids. It was the hardest decision I've ever made, but it was also the easiest. My kids deserve stability, and I wasn't going to let Jessica's midlife crisis take that away from them. Filing for divorce was a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. On one hand, it felt like I was finally taking control of a situation that had spiraled out of my hands. On the other, it was the official end of something I had spent nearly 2 decades building. There was no going back now. I knew it was the right decision, but that didn't make it any easier. The first hurdle was telling the kids. I sat them down one evening after dinner. My stomach churned as I tried to find the right words. "Kids," I started, my voice trembling, "I need to talk to you about something important." Emma immediately looked worried, while Noah just stared at me, his jaw set. Mia, too young to really understand, was busy playing with her crayons. "Your mom and I, we've decided that it's best for us to live apart. It's not something I ever wanted, but this is what's happening. I know it's going to be hard, but I promise we'll get through it together." Emma burst into tears. Noah, ever the protector, wrapped an arm around her but glared at me like I was the bad guy. "Why can't she just come home? Why can't you fix it?" he demanded. Mia looked up from her drawing and asked, "Does this mean Mommy's not coming back?" Her tiny voice broke me. I had no words. How do you explain something like this to a 5-year-old? "Mommy loves you very much," I said, my voice breaking. "But she's not coming back to live here. That doesn't mean she won't see you, though." I hated myself for how weak I sounded. Noah stormed off to his room, and Emma followed, still crying. Mia just sat there, staring at me like I just told her Santa wasn't real. That night, I cried for the first time since Jess left. The next few weeks were all about adjusting to our new normal. I juggled work, school drop-offs, homework, cooking, cleaning, everything Jess used to handle. At first, it was overwhelming. There were days when I barely managed to get out the door on time, and the laundry pile seemed like it was mocking me. But over time, I got into a rhythm. I had a lot of help from unexpected places. My mom, who lived a few towns over, started coming by once a week to help with the kids and give me a break. Some of the other parents at school offered to carpool, and a few friends from work even stopped by with meals. Their kindness reminded me that I wasn't alone, even though it felt like it most days. Jess, meanwhile, was absent. She showed up sporadically, mostly on weekends, to see the kids. At first, she tried to act like everything was normal, but the kids weren't having it. Emma barely spoke to her. Noah refused to be in the same room as her, and Mia, bless her little heart, just clung to her like nothing had changed. It was painfully obvious that Jess had no idea how to handle the situation. One day, she showed up unannounced again, this time with Brandon in tow. I was livid. What the hell is he doing here? I hissed, keeping my voice low so the kids wouldn't hear. "He's here to meet the kids," Jess said matter-of-factly, like she hadn't just dropped a bomb in the middle of my house. "Are you out of your goddamn mind?" I snapped. "You think it's appropriate to introduce them to him, after everything you've put them through?" Jess rolled her eyes. "They're going to have to meet him eventually, Mike. He's part of my life now." "Not in this house, he's not," I said, stepping between her and the living room. "You want to play house with your biker boyfriend? Fine, but you're not dragging the kids into it." She glared at me but eventually backed down. Brandon left without saying a word, and Jess stormed off a few minutes later. That was the last time she tried to bring him around. As the divorce proceedings dragged on, I focused on the kids and my own mental health. I started going to the gym again, something I hadn't done in years. It was a way to clear my head and burn off the anger and frustration that seemed to bubble under the surface constantly. I also started therapy, which I'd been hesitant about at first. Talking to a stranger about my problems felt awkward, but it ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made. The therapist helped me see that Jess's actions weren't a reflection of my worth. I wasn't a bad husband or a failure as a father. She made her choices, and they were on her, not me. By the time December rolled around, I was starting to feel like myself again. I wasn't healed, not by a long shot, but I was functioning. I could look at the kids and feel hope instead of guilt. I could go a whole day without obsessing over what Jess was doing or whether she regretted leaving. Life wasn't perfect, but it was moving forward. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was moving forward too. The divorce dragged on for months. Jess and I barely spoke outside of what was required for custody arrangements or paperwork. Every interaction was cold and transactional, and honestly, I preferred it that way. I was done trying to figure out who she had become or why she had done what she did. In the end, I got what I wanted: full custody of the kids. Jess didn't put up much of a fight, which hurt in a way I didn't expect. It was like she was washing her hands of us, happy to let me take on all the responsibility while she played house with Brandon. She kept her car, her motorcycle, and the personal items she'd already taken when she moved out. I kept the house, the mortgage, and most importantly, the kids. The papers were finalized in late January. When the envelope with the divorce decree arrived in the mail, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at it for a long time. It felt so final. 16 years boiled down to a stack of legal documents and a couple of signatures. I thought I'd feel relief when it was all over, but instead, there was this hollow ache in my chest. It wasn't that I wanted her back. God knows I didn't. But it was hard to let go of the life we'd built together. Or at least, the life I thought we'd built. One evening, a week after the divorce was finalized, Jess called me. It was the first time she'd initiated a conversation in months. I hesitated before picking up, unsure if I even wanted to hear what she had to say. "What do you want, Jess?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. She started, then trailed off. "I wanted to check in, see how the kids are doing." "They're fine," I said shortly. "Anything else?" There was a long pause. "I miss them," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me wanted to yell at her, to ask her how she could miss them when she'd been the one to leave. But another part of me, maybe the part that still remembered the woman I'd fallen in love with, felt sorry for her. "They miss you too," I said, though it wasn't entirely true. Emma and Noah were still angry, and Mia had stopped asking when Mommy was coming home. But I didn't have the heart to tell her that. We sat in silence for a moment before she said, "I made a mistake, Mike." That caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" I don't know if I made the right choice," she admitted. "Things with Brandon, they're not what I thought they'd be." There it was. The thing I'd been waiting to hear since the day she left. She regretted it. But instead of feeling vindicated, I just felt tired. "Jess, I don't know what you expect me to say," I said. "You made your choice. I'm not going to sit here and pick up the pieces for you." "I'm not asking you to," she said quickly. I needed to say it." "Well, you said it," I replied, my voice hardening. "Now what?" She didn't have an answer. Eventually, she mumbled something about calling the kids soon and hung up. I sat there for a long time after the call ended, staring at my phone and trying to make sense of my emotions. In the weeks that followed, Jess tried to make more of an effort with the kids. She started calling regularly and even came by a few times to take them out for lunch or to the park. But the damage was done. Emma barely spoke to her, and Noah's resentment was palpable. Only Mia seemed happy to see her, though I could tell she was confused by the sudden change. I made it clear to Jess that while I wouldn't stand in the way of her relationship with the kids, I also wasn't going to make it easy for her. If she wanted to be part of their lives, she'd have to earn it. As for me, I was starting to rebuild. I'd gotten a promotion at work, which came with a decent raise. The extra money helped ease some of the financial strain, and I was able to hire a part-time babysitter to help with the kids when I needed it. I also started reconnecting with old friends, people I'd lost touch with over the years because I'd been so focused on work and family. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was living for myself, not just for everyone else. It was a strange feeling, but not an unwelcome one. Life was slowly settling into a new rhythm. The kids and I were adjusting, and I had begun to believe that the worst was behind us. But then, out of nowhere, a curveball hit me square in the face, a twist I never saw coming. It started with a phone call from Jess. It was mid-March, a chilly Tuesday evening, and I was helping Emma with her math homework while Mia played with her dolls on the floor. When my phone buzzed and I saw Jess's name on the screen, I hesitated for a moment before answering. Hey, I said, keeping my tone neutral. Her voice was shaky. Mike, we need to talk. What's wrong? I asked, immediately on edge. I could hear the tension in her voice, and it wasn't her usual defensive or exasperated tone. It was something else. Something serious. Not over the phone, she said quickly. Can I come over? I glanced at the kids, who were blissfully unaware of the weight in my chest. Fine, but this better be important. When Jess arrived an hour later, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her hair was a mess, and she was wearing the same hoodie I'd seen her in the last time she picked up the kids. For a split second, I almost felt sorry for her. But then I remembered all the sleepless nights she'd caused me, and that pity evaporated. What's going on? I asked, crossing my arms as she stood in the doorway. She looked around nervously. Can we talk somewhere private? I sighed and led her to the kitchen, closing the door behind us. Spit it out, Jess. She took a deep breath, her eyes darting around the room like she was searching for an escape route. Brandon. He's not who I thought he was. I raised an eyebrow. Let me guess. He turned out to be an asshole? Shocking. No, Mike, it's not just that, she said, her voice rising. He's in trouble. Serious trouble. And now I'm caught up in it. I felt my stomach drop. What the hell are you talking about? Jess leaned against the counter, wringing her hands. Brandon's been involved in some illegal stuff. I didn't know at first, I swear, but now it's all blowing up. The shop wasn't just a business, it was a front for something else. Something else? I repeated, my patience wearing thin. Like what? She hesitated, then said in a barely audible voice. I stared at her, trying to process what she just said. Are you telling me you left your family for a guy who's running a drug operation? I didn't know, she snapped, her voice breaking. I didn't know, Mike. I thought he was just a businessman, okay? But now the cops are investigating, and he's dragging me into it. They think I knew what was going on because I worked at the shop. For a moment, I couldn't speak. I just stood there, staring at her as a million thoughts raced through my mind. So what do you want from me? I finally asked. Why are you even here? Jess looked at me, her eyes filling with tears. I don't know who else to turn to, Mike. I'm scared. What if they arrest me? What if they take the kids away? That last part hit me like a sledgehammer. Don't you dare bring the kids into this, I said, my voice low and dangerous. You think I'm going to let your stupid decisions ruin their lives? Not a chance. I'm not asking for your forgiveness, she said quickly. I need your help. Please. For a long time, I didn't say anything. I was torn between my anger and the lingering sense of responsibility I felt for her, no matter how much I hated to admit it. Jess might have betrayed me, but she was still the mother of my children. If this spiraled out of control, it would affect all of us. What kind of trouble are we talking about? I asked finally. They're looking at everyone who worked at the shop, she said, wiping her eyes. Brandon's already been arrested, and the cops showed up at my apartment yesterday asking questions. I told them I didn't know anything, but I don't know if they believe me. That night, after Jess left, I sat down and tried to process everything she told me. I couldn't believe how much worse this situation had gotten. It was like every time I thought I'd hit rock bottom, someone handed me a shovel. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to tell Jess to deal with it on her own. After all, she'd made her bed. But another part of me knew that if I didn't step in, it could end up hurting the kids. The next day, I made a call to a lawyer who specialized in criminal defense. Not for Jess, for me. I needed to know what kind of exposure I might have if this mess escalated. I wasn't about to let her drag me or the kids into her disaster. And that's when I found out something that sent a chill down my spine. Brandon wasn't just running a drug operation. He'd been using Jess's name to cover up some of his activities. Bank accounts, shipments, paperwork, all tied to her. Whether she was involved knowingly or not, she was in deep. The revelation that Brandon had used Jess's name to cover his illegal activities felt like the final nail in the coffin of my trust. It wasn't just her poor judgment at stake anymore. It was my family's future. If the authorities decided to pursue her, it could ripple out to the kids, to me, to everything I'd worked so hard to rebuild since she left. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept pacing the living room, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. What if they froze our accounts? What if social services got involved? What if this spiraled so far out of control that I couldn't protect the kids? By morning, I knew I couldn't leave this to chance. I called Jess and told her we needed to meet again. She sounded hesitant, but I insisted. We met at a coffee shop that afternoon, far from either of our homes. Jess looked like she hadn't slept either. Her face was pale, her eyes sunken, and she kept glancing over her shoulder like she expected Brandon to walk in at any moment. "We need to figure this out," I said, skipping the pleasantries. "The kids can't get dragged into this, Jess." "I know," she said quietly, staring into her coffee. "That's why I came to you." "Have you talked to a lawyer?" I asked. "I can't afford one," she admitted. "And honestly, I don't even know where to start." I sighed. "Look, I spoke to someone yesterday. He's a criminal defense lawyer, and he knows how to handle cases like this. You need to call him, Jess. Explain everything. The sooner you get ahead of this, the better." Her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Mike. I don't deserve your help." "You're right, you don't," I said bluntly. "But this isn't about you. It's about the kids. If this goes sideways, it's going to destroy them. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for them." She nodded, her hands trembling as she picked up the business card I handed her. "I'll call him today," she promised. For the next few weeks, everything felt like it was on a knife's edge. Jess met with the lawyer, who managed to buy her some time by cooperating with the investigation. She maintained that she had no idea what Brandon was doing, and while there was no hard evidence tying her directly to his operation, the accounts in her name painted a damning picture. Meanwhile, I was doing everything I could to shield the kids from the chaos. I didn't tell them what was going on, but they could sense that something was wrong. Emma started asking more questions about why Mom wasn't around as much, and Noah's anger only seemed to deepen. Mia, oblivious as ever, kept drawing pictures of our family, always including Jess, even though she rarely showed up anymore. One evening, Emma came into my room while I was folding laundry. She sat on the edge of the bed, her face serious. "Dad, is Mom in trouble?" she asked. I froze. "Why do you ask that?" I said carefully. "Because she's acting weird," Emma said. "She looks sad all the time, and she never stays long when she comes over. Did she do something bad?" I wanted to lie. I wanted to tell her that everything was fine, that her mom was just busy, or tired, or going through a rough patch, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. "Your mom made some bad decisions," I said finally, "and now she's trying to fix them. But no matter what happens, I promise you're going to be okay. I'm not going to let anything hurt you or your brother and sister." Emma nodded slowly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I just want things to go back to how they used to be," she whispered. "So do I, kiddo," I said, pulling her into a hug. "So do I." The breaking point came a few weeks later. Jess called me in a panic, saying that Brandon had reached out to her from jail. Apparently, he was pressuring her to take the fall for some of his crimes, claiming he'd protect her if she did. She was terrified, and honestly, so was I. If she gave in, there was no telling what kind of deal she might get, or if she'd get one at all. "You can't talk to him," I told her firmly. "Cut all contact. Block his number, and if he tries to reach you again, tell your lawyer." "But what if he comes after me?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Then you go to the police," I said, "and you make sure they know exactly what he's doing. You don't owe him anything, Jess. He's the one who dragged you into this mess." She nodded, but I could see the fear in her eyes. As of now, things are still up in the air. Jess is cooperating with the investigation, and it looks like she might avoid charges if she continues to play ball. Brandon, on the other hand, is facing a mountain of evidence against him. The thought of him being locked up for good is the only silver lining in this entire mess. As for me, I'm doing everything I can to keep life as normal as possible for the kids. It's not easy, but every day I remind myself why I'm doing this. For them. They didn't ask for any of this, and they deserve better. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing. I'm stronger than I thought I was. And no matter what happens next, I'll get through it. We'll get through it. It's been almost 6 months since everything came crashing down. The chaos surrounding Jess and Brandon has mostly settled. Brandon is still awaiting trial, and the case against Jess has been dropped thanks to her cooperation and lack of direct involvement. I wish I could say that marked the end of the drama, but life rarely wraps things up so neatly. Jess is trying to rebuild her life, though I don't think she truly knows how. She's renting a small apartment across town and sees the kids on weekends. Her relationship with them is still fractured. Emma barely speaks to her. Noah avoids her altogether, and Mia seems caught in the middle, clinging to the idea of mommy, even though Jess is more like a guest in her life now. I've done my best to encourage their relationship with her, but I won't force it. That bridge is hers to repair, not mine. As for me, I've started to feel like myself again. The house is quieter without Jess, but also more peaceful. The kids and I have developed our own routines, and we're closer than ever. Emma's taken up painting, and her room is covered in artwork. Some of it happy, some of it not, but all of it hers. Noah's joined a basketball team, channeling his anger into something productive. And Mia? Well, Mia is still Mia, full of energy and questions about the world. They've been my anchor through all of this, my reason to keep going even when I wanted to give up. One unexpected thing that came out of this mess was reconnecting with old friends. People I hadn't talked to in years reached out when they heard what had happened. At first, I was hesitant to let anyone in, afraid of judgment or pity. But over time, I realized that isolating myself was only making things harder. One of those friends, Laura, someone I'd known since college, has been a surprising source of support. We've started spending more time together, and while I'm not rushing into anything, there's a spark there I didn't expect. For the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful about the future. Not because everything is perfect, it's far from that, but because I've learned that I can handle whatever life throws at me. Jess's betrayal taught me some hard lessons about trust, boundaries, and self-worth. It also taught me that no matter how much you give, you can't control someone else's choices. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, here's what I want you to know. You are stronger than you think. It won't feel like it at first. You'll cry, scream, and feel like your world is falling apart. But little by little, you'll put the pieces back together. And when you do, you'll realize that the person you've become is someone you can be proud of. Life moves on, even when it feels impossible. You just have to take it one day at a time. Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to Cheating Storytelling for more gripping real-life tales. Catch you in the next video.